Beyond the Tyranny, unveiling the bizarre and scandalous world of Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, a name synonymous with tyranny, war, and scandal, ruled Iraq with an iron fist from 1979 until his downfall in 2003. His reign was marked by widespread human rights abuses, wars that devastated the region, and a lavish lifestyle amidst his country's suffering. This video delves into 15 scandalous, incredible, and intriguing facts about Saddam Hussein, offering a detailed glimpse into the life of one of the 20th century's most infamous leaders. Fact number 1. Forced participation in executions. Saddam Hussein's manipulation of power dynamics within the Ba'ath party was both cunning and brutal. A pivotal moment came in 1979, shortly after he assumed the presidency of Iraq. During a party congress, Saddam called out names in a chilling roll call, accusing these individuals of treason in collaboration with foreign entities. The accused were dragged away to face immediate, often public, execution. What was particularly harrowing about this event, later disseminated through a widely circulated video, was Saddam's order for those present, many of whom were high-ranking party officials, to participate in the executions. This macabre initiation served not only to eliminate potential threats but also to entangle the party leadership in a shared guilt, cementing their loyalty through fear. The exact number of victims remains disputed, but this event marked the beginning of Saddam's reign of terror, setting a tone for the ruthless elimination of dissent that would characterize his rule. Number 2. Brutal treatment of family. Saddam Hussein's reign of terror extended into his own family, underlining his distrust and paranoia. In a particularly notorious incident in 1996, Hussein's sons-in-law, Hussein Kamal al-Majid and Saddam Kamal al-Majid, who had fled to Jordan, were lured back to Iraq under the pretense of forgiveness for their defection. Upon their return, they, along with several family members, were executed in February 1996. These murders underscored Saddam's ruthless grip on power, demonstrating that not even familial bonds could shield one from his vengeance. The killings sent a clear message: betrayal, real or perceived, would be met with the most severe consequences. Number 3. Use of human shields. During the Gulf War in 1990 to 1991, Saddam Hussein deployed a particularly heinous strategy to deter military strikes against strategic and civilian sites within Iraq. He used foreign nationals as human shields, detaining thousands from countries aligned against Iraq. These detainees were placed at key locations, such as oil refineries, power plants, and military installations, effectively using them as a deterrent against coalition forces. The rationale was simple yet brutal: to complicate the coalition's bombing strategy by raising the stakes of civilian casualties. This tactic drew widespread international condemnation for its blatant disregard for human life and the norms of warfare. The crisis ended with the release of hostages, but not before Saddam's regime had demonstrated its willingness to breach fundamental principles of human rights and international law. Number 4. Cult of personality. Saddam Hussein meticulously cultivated a cult of personality that permeated every facet of Iraqi society. His image was omnipresent, from billboards to textbooks, portraying him as a benevolent protector, heroic warrior, and even a religious icon. This culminated in one of the most controversial acts, the commissioning of a Quran written with his own blood. Over the course of several years, Saddam donated nearly 24 liters of blood for the project, completed in the late 1990s. This blood Quran was intended to symbolize his sacrifice and dedication to the nation and Islam. However, it was met with horror and outrage by many in the Muslim world, who saw the act as blasphemous. The Quran remains a contentious symbol, housed in a mosque in Baghdad, embodying the complexity and contradictions of Saddam's attempts to intertwine his legacy with religious reverence. Number 5. Torture and disappearances. Under Saddam Hussein's regime, human rights abuses were rampant, with the Iraqi government's use of torture and forced disappearances becoming notoriously widespread. Facilities like Abu Ghraib, Radwaniyah, and Al Dujail prisons became synonymous with egregious violations of human rights. Detainees, including political prisoners, suspected dissidents, and even those with tenuous connections to opposition groups, faced brutal interrogation techniques, ranging from physical and psychological torture to execution without due process. Reports from organizations such as Human Rights Watch and testimonies from survivors detail the use of electric shocks, severe beatings, and other forms of torture. The number of those disappeared or executed remains unclear, but estimates suggest thousands of victims throughout Saddam's rule, particularly during the Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988, and the aftermath of the Gulf War, 1991. Number 6. Sham elections. Saddam Hussein's manipulation of the electoral process was a key feature of his authoritarian rule. In a 2002 referendum, Saddam was reportedly re-elected with 100% of the vote, a figure that starkly illustrated the absence of political plurality and freedom under his regime. These elections, devoid of any genuine opposition, served to reinforce Saddam's grip on power and project an image of unanimous national support. International observers and Iraqi dissidents widely condemned these elections as fraudulent and indicative of the regime's totalitarian nature. Number 7. Concealment of weapons of mass destruction. One of the most contentious aspects of Saddam Hussein's international relations was the accusation by the United States and its allies that Iraq was concealing a weapons of mass destruction (WMD) program. This accusation was a central justification for the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Despite extensive inspections by the United Nations Monitoring, Verification and Inspection Commission, UNMAVIC, and the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, no definitive evidence of an active WMD program was found prior to the invasion. The subsequent Iraq Survey Group's report in 2004 also concluded that Iraq had ended its nuclear, chemical, and biological programs by 1991. The failure to find WMDs after the invasion led to significant international controversy and criticism of the basis for military action. Number 8. The Blood Quran. Perhaps one of the most bizarre and unsettling facts about Saddam Hussein was his commissioning of a Quran written in his own blood. Over the course of several years, Saddam had nearly 24 liters of his blood drawn to be used in the writing of the Quran. This blood Quran was meant to showcase his piety and dedication to Islam, but instead, it has been regarded by many as blasphemous and deeply disturbing. Number 9. Paranoid security measures. Saddam's paranoia extended to extreme security measures, including the use of body doubles to thwart assassination attempts. It is said that he had several lookalikes undergo plastic surgery to resemble him closely. These doubles would appear in public places in his stead, making it difficult for enemies to target the real Saddam. This level of paranoia also led to the construction of elaborate bunkers and escape tunnels beneath his palaces. Number 10. Personal luxury amid sanctions. Despite Iraq suffering under severe international sanctions imposed after the invasion of Kuwait in 1990, Saddam Hussein and his inner circle lived in extraordinary luxury. Saddam's regime was known for its lavish palaces, which numbered more than 80 across the country. These palaces were symbols of excess, featuring gold-plated bathroom fixtures, opulent furnishings, and expansive pools, all maintained at enormous cost. At the same time, the Iraqi population grappled with poverty, malnutrition, and a lack of basic services, with the United Nations estimating that the sanctions contributed to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Iraqi children due to malnutrition and disease. Saddam's personal wealth, much of it amassed through the illicit sale of oil and misappropriation of funds, including those from the Oil for Food program, starkly contrasted with the suffering experienced by the majority of Iraqis during this period. Number 11. Relations with the West. During the Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988, Saddam Hussein received significant support from Western countries, notably the United States and European nations, due to the strategic interest in curbing Iranian influence in the Middle East. The US provided Iraq with economic aid, military intelligence, and weapons despite Saddam's notorious human rights record. This relationship soured dramatically following Iraq's invasion of Kuwait on August 2, 1990. The aggression led to United Nations sanctions and the formation of a US-led coalition that launched Operation Desert Storm on January 17, 1991, resulting in Iraq's defeat and withdrawal from Kuwait. The subsequent years saw Iraq under continuous sanctions and no-fly zones, culminating in the 2003 US-led invasion of Iraq based on the unfounded allegations of weapons of mass destruction. This invasion led to Saddam's downfall and significantly altered the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Number 12. Obsession with Tikrit fish. Saddam Hussein's affinity for maskaf, a traditional Iraqi dish of grilled carp, is well documented. Originating from his birthplace, Tikrit, maskaf held personal significance for Saddam, symbolizing his connection to his origins and Iraqi culture. Despite the luxuries available to him as Iraq's leader, Saddam often preferred maskaf, going as far as having the dish prepared for him wherever he was, even in his elaborate palaces. This preference for a simple, traditional dish amidst a life of opulence and power underscores the complexities of Saddam's character and his attempts to maintain a semblance of connection to his roots. Number 13. A fan of Western movies. Despite his anti-Western rhetoric, Saddam Hussein was reportedly a fan of Western movies, particularly enjoying the Godfather series. He admired the portrayal of power and loyalty in these films, drawing parallels between the movie's themes and his own rule. This fascination with American cinema was in stark contrast to his public denunciation of Western culture and policies. Number 14. Excessive birthday celebrations. Saddam Hussein's birthday was a national event, celebrated with extravagant, excessive displays of loyalty and festivity. It is reported that on one occasion, the celebrations included the release of 100,000 doves. These celebrations were a part of his cult of personality, aimed at reinforcing his image as the beloved leader of Iraq. Number 15. A romance novelist. Among the most unexpected aspects of Saddam Hussein's life was his foray into writing, particularly in the genre of romance. Under the pseudonym The Author, Saddam penned several novels, with Zabiba and the King, 2000, being the most famous. This novel, which allegorically explores the relationship between a ruler, the king, and his people, represented by Zabiba, was interpreted as a metaphor for Saddam's own view of his leadership and Iraq's challenges. Despite the novel's heavy-handed allegory and questionable literary merit, they were promoted across Iraq, reflecting Saddam's desire to craft his image as a cultured and intellectual leader. Zabiba and the King and Saddam's other literary works remain curious footnotes in the history of a dictator known more for his ruthlessness than his contributions to literature.